Through the many, many years of DC Comics events, there is no other event that has left such a mark on our lives
as Blackest Night. It's been like erased from the history books.
And, you know, we made a video a couple weeks ago talking about the importance of Green Lantern and how much the DC universe has fumbled him as like an IP and character the last few decades.
Yeah, he's like the redheaded stepchild of the DC universe. Like, they just hate him.
Exactly. What are you talking about, redheads? In that video, we mentioned how important, how awesome Blackest Night was.
Yes.
And we actually asked you guys if you would want a video covering it.
And as soon as we saw one comment say yes, we're like, okay, let's record.
It's justified. Hit the record button.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Thomas.
I'm Merlin.
Together, we're the Comic Lads.
And today, we're talking about the greatest DC Comics event ever, in our opinion.
Ever. But before we jump into it, guys, question of the week. Have you read Blackest Night? And if you have, do you think it's as incredible as we do? Let us know your thoughts in the comments down below.
Also, guys, before we get into it, don't forget to smash the like button.
Smash it.
Smash.
Smash it. It helps us out so much like you wouldn't believe. Help us conquer the YouTube algorithm.
Please.
That is perpetually against us.
Yes.
And consider subscribing. Become one with the Comic Lad Lantern Corps. I hate that. I'm sorry.
Alright guys, my last video on the channel.
So getting into this, I want to bring up an anecdote about our friendship. Blackest Night, it's like a canon event in our friendship.
It's a cornerstone, like, of our lives.
Yes.
I remember I went into HMV, bro, when that was a fucking store, and got Blackest Night because they used to have comics there, and I brought it to school, and it was like the Bible for us.
Yeah.
It was the coolest shit ever.
Like, we grew up drawing together and talking about superheroes.
Yeah.
But I don't think there was ever a singular comic or event that we obsessed so heavily over. You know, I just remember so distinctly being at school and that feeling of, like, getting giddy over all these massive spread pages of Green Lantern and the other
So cool.
DC Universe characters.
And I feel like it lasted us like a whole like semester of school where like we got all our other friends in on it and they were getting different volumes like you said and we were trading them around.
This comic, I feel like, means a lot to just our friendship in general. You know what I mean?
It really does. They don't make events like this anymore.
No, they do not.
On either side of the pond, Marvel or DC, they don't put the love and care that Geoff Johns and Ivan Rice and the rest of their team put into this event. Like, events now, it feels like they just shit them out like every year and like they don't have any build up to them. This had like 6 years of Green Lantern build-up going into it.
And that, I think, is a great jumping off point for this video.
Yeah.
We need to talk about Geoff Johns' run. We talked about it kind of briefly in the previous video.
We didn't dive into it.
We didn't dive into it. And like you said, Geoff Johns laid out such a crazy timeline and series of events that led up to Blackest Night. Everything was like calculated and was meticulously placed in the timeline.
Yeah, and was like unskippable too.
So getting into it a little bit, something very interesting that Johns did when he took over writing Green Lantern, straight off the bat, he started to lay clues of what was coming up for this big event.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, even in some of the first volumes of his Green Lantern, the Guardians were, like, talking, just in little brief conversations, things like, oh, the Blackest Night is coming upon us one of these days.
Yeah, or the prophecy of the Blackest Night, and you're like, what does that mean? Because back before this event came out, Blackest Night is just, like, a phrase that's uttered as part of the Green Lantern oath.
Yeah, and Brightest Day and Blackest Night.
Exactly. You're like, what is the Blackest Night? Like, is this an actual thing that's gonna happen?
Yeah. Like, the Blackest Night comes up quite a bit. There's this one moment in one of the earlier issues where Abin-Sur,
yes,
you realize that the whole reason for his death and, you know, passing on the Green Lantern ring to Hal was trying to find out about this prophecy called the Blackest Night.
Abin-Sur is the Green Lantern of Earth's space sector.
2814,
and he crash lands on Earth, dies bequeathing his Green Lantern ring to Hal.
Sorry, go on.
Stupid. Bequeathing. He dies. No, it's queef.
Oh, they said bequeathing. Oh. Okay, go on.
He dies passing on Green Lantern ring to Hal Jordan. But we never knew why he died.
Yeah.
And Geoff Johns was like, I know why he died. And you're like, okay, yes, Papa Johns, like, please tell me. The reason he died was because he was afraid of the Blackest Night while he was flying through Earth's space sector. And his fear of the Blackest Night causes his constructs to be weakened and eventually leads to his death.
And so even from that, just another thing that was building up to this Blackest Night prophecy that you didn't know what it actually was. From Abenzer's death, you get to see how the Guardians have been paranoid about this prophecy for so long.
Yeah.
And they almost try to like bury what Abenzer was trying to do, you know what I mean? There's a few different instances where they actually do try to, by any means possible, avert the Blackest Night. At one point even trying to kill all the Green Lanterns themselves and replace them with a whole other corps to take over.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a whole other tangent.
That's a whole other can of worms.
Another part of this prophecy that they would always mention is the War of Light.
Yes.
And this is something that we, again, talked about in our previous video, but people don't realize how much Geoff Johns contributed to the Green Lantern mythos and world.
Before Johns' run, there was just a Green Lantern Corps. His greatest enemy had one yellow ring. Johns had the idea, why is there not a Lantern Corps for every color? And now it's synonymous with the Green Lantern canon, but before that, it was like, it's such a revolutionary but also like no-brainer idea that he came up with.
From all these cores, it relates directly to this other side of the prophecy, the War of Light, which essentially brought all of these Lantern Corps that Geoff Johns created, you know, like the Sinestro Corps, the Rage Corps, and it introduced all these great storylines and new concepts. Part one of the prophecy was the War of Light. So the War of Light means that all of these Lantern Corps are essentially at war with each other.
Yes.
There's this huge battle, and then that would lead into the Blackest Night.
Yes. So should we just talk about what the Blackest Night is?
Yes.
So the Blackest Night basically entails that a new lantern power battery will form on a dead world, and it will send all these black rings across the universe. And what they'll do is raise the dead throughout the entire cosmos.
Obviously, a lot of the story takes place on Earth.
Yeah.
But when you're reading it, you can't help but think like what's happening on these other homeworlds where like Superman isn't laser beaming a bunch of zombies. You know what I mean?
Everyone's getting mucked by zombies.
Exactly, yeah. Like, by all considerations, Earth is probably getting it the least bad. So with this, you know, the dead is rising all across the universe, and in a weird turn of events, it almost stops the War of Light because all these Lantern Corps are forced to unite and work together to fight this common enemy.
Absolutely. They find out later in the story that the only way to truly defeat a Black Lantern, because like they're zombies, you can't just like shoot them in the head, they're still alive, you know, they reform, they heal from like any wound. The only way to take one of them down is with the combined light of two different lanterns focusing their energy beams into them.
It's like the buddy system of the Lanterns.
Exactly. So they have to work together, you know.
Yeah.
Previous to the event, half the DC heroes were dead at that point.
Yeah.
Had been killed off in previous stories.
Or had died and come back to life somehow.
Exactly. And like at the start of the story, Martian Manhunter's dead, Aquaman's dead, Batman's dead.
Yeah.
You know?
It was right after Final Crisis.
Exactly. And like all these heroes and all these villains and all these dead characters were on the table to be resurrected. And it's scary as a fan. You're like, I don't want to see this happen to my heroes.
It is scary, and it took itself so seriously. You know, like not just the story, but the art. So freaking scary, bro.
Ivan Reis is to this day still like one of the best artists at DC Comics and in comics in general. For me, this is his magnum opus.
I want to bring up one scene in particular that like made me really feel like shit was hitting the fan. It's like right at the beginning of the story where not everyone is like fully aware of, you know, the going-ons of the dead being raised, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And there's this scene with Hawkman and Hawkgirl.
Oh, Jesus, dude.
Where they're like pouring out their love for each other. And the thing about the Black Lanterns too, which is so cool, they can sense emotion.
They can see
emotion. And so there's this Black Lantern kind of stalking them, and they're having this very intimate conversation when they're talking about love.
Yeah.
And they can feel like the love vibrating off of them.
And their fear too, because they're professing their love for each other. Them professing their love to each other is what reveals them to the Black Lantern.
Exactly. So to actually truly be hidden from a Black Lantern, you almost have to like...
You have to be devoid of emotion.
Exactly. And so they're confessing their love for each other, and I think like Hawkgirl is just about to like say like, I love
you. She says, I love you, and gets fucking impaled.
Yeah. That was the moment where I was like,
oh no.
Holy shit.
I was like, what the... I've never seen one of my superheroes get stabbed.
With like blood and everything. And then of course, Elongated Man comes out, and he's revealed to be one of the Black Lanterns, raised from the dead, stalking them, and he beats the shit out of Hawkman with his own hammer. Like, what the hell?
And we should not have been reading this at age 9. This shit is visceral. Part of Hawkman's cheek is missing and you see his teeth through it and you're like, oh my god.
And at the same time, he's like begging for Hawkgirl's life and telling her how much she means to him.
And she's already gone and he's like screaming her name, grabbing her hand.
Yeah. They take out their hearts and they become Black Lanterns as well. And another instance of like seeing a zombified, previously beloved superhero coming back. There's this great moment in the start of the book where Green Lantern and Flash are just like hanging out. They're talking about all the people that they've lost along the years. You know, Green Lantern makes this awesome construct of like all these fallen heroes.
Yeah, they've both recently come back to life in the comics. And Flash asks Green Lantern, like,
who have we lost?
Like, how many of us have actually died? You see that Ivan Rice fucking double-page splash. Dozens and dozens of heroes.
And big heroes, too.
Big heroes,
you know, like Batman's in there.
Firestorm, fucking Aquaman, Jean. It's brutal.
It's brutal. And as they're reminiscing and kind of, you know, sharing feelings.
Yeah, I think, aren't they at Bruce's
grave?
Yeah.
Suddenly Martian Manhunter as a Black Lantern comes out.
And I'm like, is this my favorite Martian Manhunter design?
It's so sick.
Yeah, they get into a tussle, and then on the other side of the states, like, the new kid who's Firestorm, who's attacked by classic Firestorm, who's come back from the dead. Again, it's my favorite Firestorm design.
Yeah, Deathstorm.
When he's a skull.
So sick.
It's so sick. Classic Firestorm separates the new Firestorm from his girlfriend, because if you don't know anything about Firestorm, it's like you need two people to merge to become Firestorm.
Yeah.
He separates them. He fuses himself with the new Firestorm, Jason Rush, but his girlfriend is out of the equation. And if you don't know anything about Firestorm's powers, he can shoot fire and fly, whatever. His main thing is that he can transmute any elements or molecules into any other molecules. And he makes Jason watch as he turns his girlfriend into salt. Fucking disintegrates.
And when you're fused with Firestorm, it's almost like you're sharing the same body.
Yes.
And
so it's like he's doing it.
Yeah, he's making this guy essentially kill his own girlfriend.
Horrible.
That's where that's just another moment when you're like, am I reading like a DC comic right now? It's just so dark. Like, there's no hope at this point in the story.
People are dropping left and right like flies.
And not only that, but there's this one point where Black Hand raises Bruce Wayne into a Black Lantern.
Yeah, because the Black Lanterns need an emotional tether to every superhero.
Who better than Batman?
Who better than Batman? They were all friends with Batman. They're all still mourning his loss. And he brings Batman back, bro. One of the coolest single images I've ever seen in my life.
It's so, just with the word rise, and you just see zombie Black Lantern. It goes so hard.
Oh my god. Imagine Batman turns into a zombie, vomits like 6 black rings, and turns Superman, Wonder Woman, Kid Flash, Green Arrow, fucking Superboy, Ice, Donna Troy into Black Lanterns, and then the issue ends and you have to wait a month.
No, God! And there's a really cool moment when this happens. You know, all these heroes are turning evil. You know, you got Black Lantern, Superman, like you said, and Barry Allen and Hal Jordan, who have previously died, are targeted.
Oh.
And so rings are flying at them.
Oh shit, dude, this part is so sick.
And they're trying to avoid it, obviously, because as soon as you get a Black Lantern ring on your finger, you turn into a Black Lantern.
Yeah.
And so there's this one moment where Flash is like, make a tether to me with a construct.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna get us out of here.
And Green Lantern's like, are you sure, man? These things are fast. And Barry's like, but I'm faster. And he runs them 2 seconds into the future. So that, like,
the connection is
the
severed.
Rings lose their connection to them. I'm like, fucking, this guy's cooking.
I know, it's such a great utilization of everyone's power in the story. So at this point, the light of hope is dwindling, and Ganthet, one of the previous Guardians of the Green Lantern Corps, who actually founded the Blue Lantern Corps.
Yeah, fired from the Guardians for showing emotion.
He essentially reveals that there's a protocol, like a failsafe within all of the Lantern Rings to duplicate themselves in time of need. And so if this story wasn't already so sick, he duplicates every Lantern Corps' ring, and they attach themselves to one of DC's heroes.
Yeah, to make new deputies for each of the corps. Flash gets a Blue Lantern Ring of Hope.
Ray Palmer gets the Ring of Compassion, Indigo.
Yeah, Mira, Aquaman's wife, gets the Red Lantern Ring of Rage.
Because she's, at this point in the story, earlier on, she's fought Aquaman.
And she's watched as Aquaman killed their young protege slash like son almost, Aqualad.
Yeah, the whole story up until then, she's on a freaking warpath against the Black Lantern. Which, can I just say, Geoff Johns takes these characters that are considered like C, D-list characters, and he makes them so awesome in this story.
Oh my god.
So sick.
And just going quickly back to when Ganthet duplicates all the rings to make new deputies, you're like, there's gotta be a green one. Who's gonna be the green one? Fucking Ganthet is like, I may have founded the Blue Lantern Corps, but I also founded the green. I am Ganthet of Oa, and I welcome myself to the Green Lantern Corps.
Also notably, Wonder Woman gets a Ring of Love, which breaks her connection to the Black Lantern Corps. But guys, it's not just heroes that get rings.
Yeah, because like, heroes are not gonna get the Ring of Fear or the Ring of Greed.
Yeah, unless you're Batman, but he's dead. And you see Jonathan Crane get a Ring of Fear. But I also want to note who gets the Avarice Ring.
Yes.
The Ring of Greed.
Lex Luthor.
Who better?
Nobody. Even if Lex didn't have the ring, he would like not really help the heroes. You know, he'd be out for himself. And that's exactly what happens when he gets the orange ring. Isn't even helping them. He starts attacking the other deputies, like trying to take their rings. And you're like, oh, Jesus. Like, why do we even have an orange lantern?
And he actually does take the Ring of Fear from Scarecrow.
Yeah.
And he has like orange and yellow armor. It just looks so sick.
Oh,
I do want to say also, Star Sapphire Wonder Woman.
Yeah, your first crush.
So all of this is just, you know, the different motions of the story, but it all culminates to Necron essentially trying to kill the entity of life. You know, previously before this, we got all the different entities for the different Lantern Corps.
And you see that there is an entity of life as well, hidden deep within the earth. It's described as the first light to pierce the blackness of the cosmos.
Yeah, and so Necron, obviously, with the whole prophecy of the Blackest Night being extinguishing all life, if he kills the entity of life, he kills life itself.
Yes.
And there's this great moment. Green Lantern is about to try to bond with the entity of life.
Yeah.
And Sinestro's basically like, no, this moment will be mine.
And I will finally prove to the universe that I'm the greatest lantern of them all. And he becomes the first ever White Lantern.
Woo, I'm about to make a name for myself here.
Like, I can't imagine collecting this monthly back then.
I know, I would have been fucking... Imagine the book ends, the last page is Sinestro becomes the first ever White Lantern, and it says Destiny awaits, and you're like, oh cool, Destiny will have to wait fucking 1 month for me to get the next
I
issue.
know. So, I'm gonna say in one of the most underrated battles of this book, Sinestro goes toe-to-toe with Necron. I'm not gonna describe what happens, we'll just put the freaking images for you guys to see.
Yeah.
I'm bricked up! I'm bricked up,
There
bro!
are no... Comics don't look or feel like this anymore.
No, they don't.
Like, the big two do not care about events like they used to.
Sinestro essentially gets his ass beat. There's some great freaking spreads of all of the heroes and lanterns of the DC universe teaming up.
My God.
This fucking page here, the more the merrier? Christ almighty.
Look at it! There's 6 billion characters on this page, and it doesn't feel like overcrowded.
It just feels epic.
It feels like they're like flying towards me.
And again, this event feels earned. It was built up for Geoff Johns' entire run, from the very first seeds of curiosity he planted with the characters prophesizing Blackest Night, all the way to the spread where all of the Lantern Corps are together, uniting as one, facing down the Black Lanterns. I have no words. And it all culminates to the greatest heroes of the DC Universe bonding with the White Lantern entity.
And the way they bond with it, it's that Hal Jordan rallies all of the heroes that were turned into Black Lanterns because they've been resurrected before, and he justifies their resurrections in the past by saying that Necron might have opened the door for them to come back, but we're the ones that chose to walk through it. Hal, Superman, Wonder Woman, all these characters that have come back to life become the White Lantern Corps.
Look at this one image.
Look at it, dude!
And essentially, instead of just beating this character, because you can't kill what is already dead.
No.
You know, Hal Jordan says in this great monologue, we all chose to live again, and now we choose it for you. And they force Black Hand, who was kind of like...
the avatar of Necron.
Exactly. They force him to live. which destroys the Black Lantern Corps. So anyway, Necron explodes. All these fucking White Lantern rings bring back many of the fallen heroes throughout this book.
But not all of them.
Yeah.
Which is like the saddest part of the book.
It's sad, but it also brings more meaning to this book.
It does.
So many DC events, you know, heroes fall, heroes rise, but at the end of it, it feels like more or less nothing substantially changes in this universe. You know what I mean?
You have a sense of victory and triumph when you finish the book. Also, like, you've lost something.
It's a very, like, bittersweet moment at the end of the book.
It is, because all these great heroes are back to life. Hawkman and Hawkgirl are back, thank God, because their death scene was heinous. And then Flash is looking around for his friend, the Elongated Man, and they're not here.
Yeah, not everyone came back. And so in those moments, you're rejoicing, but you're still grieving with the heroes. Of course, the book ends, and we get an unfortunate tease to the whack follow-up, Brightest Day.
Just don't read Brightest Day if you haven't read it. I mean, if you're gonna read Geoff Johns' whole run, which you should, absolutely read it, but, like, read Blackest Night on its own.
Brightest Day, to me, there's no confirmation of this. This is just like theorizing.
Yeah.
It feels like DC execs saw the success of Blackest Night and all of Geoff Johns' Green Lantern run.
Yeah.
And they're like, oh, we need like something else to like continue the story after.
Yeah.
Because then after this, they made a bunch of different spin-off Brightest Day books.
Yeah.
They were all incredibly underwhelming, in my opinion, at least.
And they don't really have much to do with Green Lantern at all.
No.
It's just about the 12 characters that were resurrected at the end of Blackest Night.
Yeah.
All that's to say, guys,
If you haven't read it, give it a chance for sure.
it's something really, really special.
DC events nowadays, it's just multiverse after multiverse, and this felt like a high-stakes, built-up storyline.
Yeah.
It was years in the making, and it just delivers on all fronts.
On all fronts, the writing is immaculate, beautifully written action, beautifully written gut-wrenching moments. You can pore over every single panel, no matter big or small, and Ivan Reis put his soul into each image.
It's his best work. Let us know your thoughts on Blackest Night. If you haven't read it, definitely go give it a read. Come back to the video, let us know. We love to read every single one of your comments.
Absolutely. Leave a like on the video. It really helps us out, honestly, like you guys wouldn't believe. And we'll see you next time.
We love you dearly.
Peace.
Peace.